undisclosed location high in the Hollywood Hills. It's time once again for the long shot. Come hell or high water. Tonight's episode, throw your hat over the fence with special guest Andrew Stephen. And now, please welcome the host of the long shot, Sean Conroy. Thank you so much. Good afternoon, good evening, good morning, good desk. Welcome to the Long Shot, Come Hell or High Water. It is a podcast. I am your host. My name is Sean Conroy. With me today on the show, Jamie Flam is here. Oh. Amber Kenny is here.
Hello.
Joe Wagner is here.
Hello. Wow.
And of course, today, the very rare guest appearance on the show. With us, a former producer of the show, sometimes contributor, Mr. Andrew Stephen has graced us with his presence today.
Hey, everybody. Good to see you again.
See you. Congratulations.
Thank you. Congratulations are in order.
That's like that clip where somebody says to Beyonce, "You're Beyonce," and she goes, "Thank you."
Andrew, you're our Beyonce. You're the Locho Post Beyonce.
I don't know if I can live up to that expectation, but I'll try.
If anybody can, you can do it. Andrew, tell us about why you're here today.
I missed you guys.
All right, let's go now to...
I have been listening. It's been a lot of fun. It's weird to hear you all have these conversations and not be sitting like 5 feet away, looking at my phone.
You guys hear an echo, by the way?
Something weird is definitely going on.
I think it's worth calling out just because it seems significant.
Yeah, it does. You're absolutely right.
Is it on Joe's side? Because Joe's doing something.
Oh, I think his headphones might not be on his headset.
Are they not plugged in?
That'll do her.
The key crucial step.
You guys see some of my producer instincts just kind of come right back?
Wow.
Just want to reiterate again. Terrible week, not doing well. So, Andrew,
we're not at your checking in yet. Hold on.
Hold on.
Yeah, that was just a teaser. The fact that we had this weird audio thing was a teaser into Joe's life this past week.
I'm a hot mess.
Marketing.
I apologize for not plugging in my headphones. All right, here we go. We're good.
You were late for the tech rehearsal, so
yeah,
I was late for tech. So sorry.
Okay, leaving that aside, Andrew, you have a new podcast that you have started to release. Can you tell us about that?
I have a new podcast that was kind of referenced perhaps in the last or second to last long shot before this new revival, but it's called Trail Weight, and it's all about a year in my life where I decided I wanted to lose weight and hike over 200 miles through the Sierra Nevadas. And it's like a documentary style podcast and combines my work in podcasting and sort of in and around the comedy industry to hiking to I talk with Olympians, and authors and experts and other
Olympians,
creators.
of course, meaning athletes, not the gods.
Both. No, yes, the athletes. Actually, I have a really fascinating conversation with Alexi Pappas. She's an Olympian long distance runner, but also a filmmaker, and she's made films with Nick Kroll and Rachel Dratch and a lot of others. So it's like the sort of a combination of all the things I love, like creativity and getting outdoors, but it tells a narrative story of basically 1 year of my life.
Oh, cool. And so it's all done, but you're releasing it bit by bit?
Yeah, it's I mean, everything's done. We're tweaking it up until we release it, like any creative often. It's never finished. But
that's how I feel about this 10 podcast. Episodes. Every week we spend so much time tweaking it.
We spend so much time editing and
it's like, can we re-record those 3 words and just layer that in? Is that a possibility?
People don't know this is all scripted.
We're definitely going to cut out the part where I didn't put my headphones in.
No, we're going to underline that part.
And we're going to cut out the part you just referenced it and this part. Because they won't make sense.
And this part.
No, we were like, you know what? Could we have more parts where we're all just talking directly over each other?
So Andrew, how did this all start? Like, what inspired you to do this?
Yeah, it's my like journey with being outdoors, camping, hiking, and sort of my physical fitness, for lack of a better term, have sort of been at odds, so to speak, for a while. I'm someone who was always like big my whole life. I was always called big or big boned,
big guy. Hey, big boy.
The stereotype of the kid who shows up late to the pool party or the beach party because he doesn't want to take his shirt off, and trying to figure out how to sort of reconcile that with my love of going on hikes and just reaching my own like very real physical limitations. And so I sort of, taking a nod from like writing, which I know, Joe, you're working on stuff. Sean, you're working on stuff. I decided
let's be honest. No.
I decided to create like my own inciting incident where sort of like throwing my hat over the fence. So the podcast project.
I love that.
Was the motivation to help me lose weight.
You threw in this little phrase like it means something. And I just have to back up and say, what does throwing your hat over the fence mean? Like, I'm not following that.
I thought we were going to explain inciting incident.
So let's say you're writing.
But that's true. That is an odd turn of phrase.
Yeah. Let's say you're writing a story about a character who wants to get over this fence. Yes. But
he
needs to get his hat, attention. So he throws it over the fence.
He needs to get over a fence, but it's too high for him to climb. So he throws his hat over. He throws his hat over because if he wants to get his hat back, he's got to figure out a way to get over the fence.
To get over
so it's forcing him over the fence.
So it's like an expensive hat.
Yes.
Or a
meaningful.
We're assuming that the hat has value to the person.
Yeah. I don't remember where I first heard the turn of phrase.
Stating that I didn't create it. You will
get that hat.
It's creating some forward momentum that can't be denied.
But it's also self-imposed.
Yes. And so the podcast.
So there's a moment at the beginning where his mother says to him, "Now you're going out in the world, and when you go out in the world, you better not come home unless you're wearing your hat." And he goes out into the world, and he gets to a fence, and he's like, "I want to go over that fence." Throws the hat. Got to get that hat, or my mom.
That hat has been in our family for over 50 years.
It's a very right.
This is great. I need to go back and add this all to the podcast.
I have a question about the podcast, Andrew. So
yeah,
you took you did the hiking.
Yes.
You did all the hiking. Were you making the podcast during the hiking, or
so it started a year before the hike. And so I have about a year's worth of audio from me deciding to do this to like trying to get in shape to talking with trainers to losing weight. I mean, one random.
It sounds like this might be the one podcast that's actually longer than our podcast. You have
well, it's very
years worth of audio.
We could put up our occasional texts online, maybe if people are interested in more behind the scenes.
They're brief.
But then
They're very brief.
But I did record. I brought recording gear, as light as I could, recording gear with me on the actual hike. And then I continued to talk and interview people after I got home as well, too.
Wow.
So I like it. I hope other people will.
And one more question to your creative process. Are you taking chunks of the on the hike segments and
Joe loves chunks
and putting it I said the magic word. Are you blending those with the interviews?
Yes. So just like, pulling the curtain. What's the phrase I'm trying to think of?
Yes. Pull the curtain back.
Throwing the curtain over the fence.
Yes. Throwing the curtain over the inciting incident.
The neighbor's like, there's a pile of shit in my yard.
This curtain is very valuable and it goes back.
There's a gate right there.
If I'm going to get over this fence, I better
just go to the Goodwill,
over.
Please. I don't need any of this stuff. I have a hat.
Honey, somebody's throwing all kinds of clothing into the yard.
Figuring out the timeline has been the most difficult part of the storytelling.
Right.
Because there is, I wanted to get to the trail as soon as possible, but there's, that like in the year's worth of audio, that's only 1 month. So dealing with that, but yeah, I tried to try to find interviews. Like in the second episode, I have a great interview with a mindfulness therapist, and it's sort of intercut with me realizing, I spent all this time trying to get in the right physical state to go on this long hike, but I wasn't necessarily prepared for spending long hours walking alone with nothing but your thoughts. And so that's sort of intercut with. You
should have listened to our podcast, Andrew, while you were.
I did listen to the final episode on the walk.
Wow.
It was very fun to hear.
That's
which episode do you talk about that?
Jamie, you're in the first episode.
How many episodes do you talk about that in?
Yeah, you're in the first episode. Remember I asked you to describe me if someone was meeting me for the first time?
Oh, yeah.
You're the very first guest that people hear.
Cool.
Andrew got an amazing 32-minute chunk out of that.
This could be very good for your career, Jamie.
I'm excited. Now listen, Andrew, I don't think you can really talk about any podcast venture without noting what an impact Serial had on the entire podcasting world. Can you speak a little bit to how that podcast might have inspired not only podcasting as a whole, but
I like
this specific experience that you had in making this?
I like that your podcast character voice always stutters.
Don't all NPR people stutter a little bit?
I mean, it's not inaccurate, but
Jamie Flam is a theater director.
All right, Andrew, answer the question.
Creative person.
Yeah, Serial was great. People loved it.
Thank you.
Can I go back to the beginning of when you started talking about this?
Yes, I saw that on Instagram. Sorry,
I haven't seen anything on Instagram.
And I'm the one who spoiled checking in.
Started chewing on the headphones, so I needed to pick him up.
Jeff.
He's on a walk. Anyway, we'll get there.
Oh, I thought Jeff chewed on the.
It seems like you talked about two things as what this was about. I mean, I'm sure it was about a lot of things, but you said weight loss and camping, and those two things being either together or separate in some way. So can you, I don't know, explain that a little bit?
Yeah, so I loved going camping. It's like my go-to favorite vacation, and I love going on hikes, but it was at the point where I was sort of reaching the limit of what I could physically do, and I was making decisions based on what I felt I was capable of physically instead of like what I actually wanted to do. And so I didn't like that feeling.
Like, I'm not going to go to the top of that mountain. I'm going to walk around that mountain because it's flatter that way. Basically.
Yeah. Or like, there's a really beautiful special place at this, at this national park, but it's a 12-mile hike, or it's a 2-day long hike, or I really want to go to the Grand Canyon, but I also feel like I don't want to go to the Grand Canyon and not try to do the rim to rim hike,
Right.
And it's
you don't want to do the Chevy Chase thing of like, oh, there it is, let's go.
Yeah, exactly. And so it's just like
you want to fully rim the Grand Canyon.
Did you have a specific hike that you were training for, or was it kind of all of these?
All of them, but the specific route that we did is the John Muir Trail, which is a 211-mile hike that starts. We went northbound, so it starts at the top of Mount Whitney, so that doesn't include hiking up to Mount Whitney, and then it ends in Yosemite Valley.
So just hearing you say that's got to be at least a 2-day hike when you're looking at that.
At least. Yeah, I think we did it in 24 days total.
That's insane.
What kind of car were you in, Andrew?
The rubber soled shoe.
Well, and then you have to have 24 days worth of.
Yeah, we did. So we did some resupplying.
And chocolate and graham crackers.
So at one point we hiked off of the trail, another, 10 miles to a town, stayed the night in a motel, resupplied, hiked back in another place.
So
there's there's a backcountry, there's a backcountry ranch that's like only accessible by boat or by horse, and so you can mail stuff there. So that sort of thing.
That's
so
how Lewis and Clark got to the Northwest Passage.
I think the most food we carried with us was like 6 or 7 days worth of food.
That's a significant amount.
It's the majority of the weight you carry.
You didn't run out. You didn't have any Donner Pass action or looking at each other and she turns into a steak and you turn into a turkey or anything. No. All right.
So here's the thing about that. You're talking about carrying 6 or 7 days worth of food, sleeping stuff, shovel, all clothing, warm clothing, all the things you carry.
A hat.
It's a lot of weight. And that's not a thing that you just go one day and go, okay, tomorrow we're going up the John Muir Trail and we'll be back on Saturday. You got to prepare yourself for that.
Yeah.
So what was that process like?
So the boring stuff I did, it's always great to lead with the boring stuff.
Definitely start with that and market it that way. Whatever.
It was trying to walk everywhere as much as I could. Like if I had enough time to walk to a meeting and it wouldn't matter if I was sweaty or not, do that.
It's better for the environment and better for your health.
And Rocky and I share a car anyway, so oftentimes it was like a necessity too. But I even walked to Sean's, I think, once or twice with all the recording gear to record some episodes of The Long Shot way back.
What a bummer when you were here on the wrong day. And it was just like that was.
And you're like, go home.
Yeah.
And you wouldn't give me any water.
No. Up at the top of the hill. Yeah.
So I did that. I mean, I went, did almost every weekend did some sort of hike, whether it was at Griffith Park or up in like Angeles National Forest. Tried the various things of like doing like an inventory of like what actually am I eating in a given day.
How long did you do all that prep for?
A year. Yeah. So I July is when I made the decision to do this, and we did the hike in the August of the following year.
Wow. A nice cool month.
It actually is because you're so high up in elevation. Like there's still lots of snow up there, and you're exposed to the sun, so it's very easy to get burnt, but it wasn't hot.
But not in a hot way.
No.
Like a cool burn.
Yeah.
Real cool.
So you worked really hard for a year, basically, to get yourself ready to go.
I think having the like sort of tricking myself into it by having the podcast project was a huge
because the hat help. You had to get the hat.
Yeah, I had to get the hat back, and so it's like I was talking with producers. I sold one podcast sponsorship, before I went out there. So it's just like I had that obligation. I started telling people to sort of like accountability. What was that, Joe?
Do you want to plug them right now? Who
Bear Vault. They make a bear canister.
Oh.
When you're in the Sierras and some other areas, they make you put your food in like a bear canister.
Smart.
So Bear Vault is just one brand of them.
Bear Vault. I love that name.
Yeah, they're all puns too. There's like what's the Barricade? That's another brand.
Honestly, that's really good because it like works both ways.
Yeah. But
we're all creatives here.
That got me off track. I'm sorry. But no, yeah. So just the other thing too that I found super helpful was like, this is turning into like life coachy, but like finding things that I could track and see progress in. So like, I know for some people, like getting on the scale every day is very unhealthy and it can lead to like sort of obsessing over the wrong things. So like some of the stuff that helped me was just like all the stupid, like fitness tracker watch counting steps, can you go a couple steps further every day?
The data that helped you.
Yeah, a couple, like just having something where I could see progress because that became motivating. It's like, oh, I could, I would get out of breath walking 5 miles. Now I'm doing 7 miles and I don't feel winded. I started jogging too towards the end. I haven't gotten back into that, but like I got all the way up to 10 miles jogging very slowly. I mean, I'm sure there's some people who could walk faster than I was jogging, but just finding trackable stuff. Like I found that super motivating.
Jogging 10 miles slow is an achievement.
I did it once. It wasn't like I did that every week, but still, I mean, I'm proud of it, but I'm not there anymore. So I guess I'm no longer proud of myself.
And so
Sean just
you just gave yourself a cool burn, Andrew.
Well, I'm a piece of shit again.
So you worked on this for a year. Was there ever a time during, like, that feels like a long time to sustain something like this? Was there ever a time where you sort of felt like you were running out of gas, or you needed some extra motivation, or, you had to throw another hat over the fence?
You thought you found your hat.
How many hats did you have? And do you only have this cap left?
Yes, this is the only hat I have.
No, but I mean, it just feels like a hard road to stay motivated for that long.
Yeah. I think, there was some other events that sort of happened in the year that I think derailed me a little bit. Some family stuff happened towards the end, like the month leading up to. So the other thing too is just like when you're bigger, you're carrying around a lot of weight, and so the more
walk is more difficult. Yeah.
Well, and the walk like burns more calories, just like very blatantly. So as I got closer to sort of the hike, that progress slowed down, and that was
because it's
and so that's when like sort of having I couldn't step on the scale and have that be my sort of motivating trackable thing, and that's when I started focusing on the other stuff. But honestly, maybe it was ignorance, but I didn't really feel too much of that until like after I got home from the hike, and sort of the 2 years this upcoming August since it's been much harder to maintain, but there's also been a lot of crazy stuff going on in the world today, man.
Like
I don't know if you're aware.
So now let's get to that was all the boring stuff. Now let's get to the hike itself. Tell us about it.
Yeah, it was
the first 200 feet.
Just the first 200 feet.
Well, if you want to start
snakes or avalanches that'd be fun to hear about.
Quicksand.
Quicksand would be there were best. Snakes. I don't remember seeing any, but I know there are some out there. We did see pikas. Do you guys know what pikas are?
No.
Oh, what is that?
They're like a little
rodent,
cute. Right? Yeah, but they're like a cross between like a little mouse and like a chipmunk.
Oh, come on.
And they're only at like very high elevation, and you almost never see them just because they're very shy. Pikas. So that was really fun. I mean, saw lots of marmots. They always try to steal your food.
Those marmots.
No, but the hike, I mean, it's just...
Luckily, you had your bear thing.
Yes.
Vault.
Bear Vault. Bearvault.com.
And what great prices for a great quality product.
Yeah, I mean, let's just remember, it's called Bear Vault, but it does work against marmots, even though it's not called Marmot Vault.
Andrew's the guy who's like, and what if a marmot comes along? You'll be fine.
Didn't think of that.
Arm box.
No, it's their tagline. It's like made for hikers, tested by bears. I always thought that was funny. It's like just picturing bears in lab coats. Like
you're like, no, we got it.
But the Sierra Nevada mountains are like the world over considered some of the most beautiful places. You have these huge granite monoliths that are like carved by glacier and river and just evergreen forests. And, almost every day we climbed and, our elevation gain and loss was around 2,000 feet. So we'd like go up and then come back down. And so you're seeing just huge varieties of plants and environments, from to like these weird, crazy like plateaus where it feels like alone, but in a positive way that just like, I don't know, like there's this one area specifically called Bighorn Plateau. And when I experienced plateaus prior to this, like I always pictured like maybe Monument Valley or somewhere in Utah where it's just sort of like, you're below, and then you sort of see these plateaus just sort of like all around, but they're very spread out. But here we were up at like almost 10,000 feet of elevation on a plateau, and then you just see it's just flat for miles, and then surrounding you are these even taller mountains. And so it's just this weird, like almost Tim Burton landscape.
Right.
You know, even though I'm making a podcast about this, it still is
hard
one of those. It's still one of those things where it's like I'm struggling for words. It's like metaphor and poetry almost do a better job describing it.
No, I get it. It's like flat and then it's higher on the sides. Yeah.
But in the same way,
it's like a fade, right? It's like it's a high top fade.
High and tight.
Yeah, like the Kid and Play haircut.
Yeah.
But and it's the same way too when you're surrounded by these mountains, like in the same way that that plateau felt like alone in a positive way. It's like you almost feel claustrophobic in a positive way too. Like just sort of, I don't know. It's very easy to see like how people become like hippie hiker trash addicts, because there is something so simplistic about like every day you just have to wake up, walk, eat, and sleep. You're surrounded by just beautiful nature. You're moving at a pace that allows you to like be present and forces you to be present because you're constantly making a million different, micro decisions.
I think that's kind of what that movie that's just come out, just was nominated, Nomadland is about. People who kind of have that lifestyle.
Yeah, like the van life sort of.
Frances McDormand.
It's less about that than you think.
Oh, no, but I mean a certain lifestyle of movie. I mean of like.
Have you seen that movie, Joe?
Nature. No. But I mean,
it's a sadder version.
Amber, I'm not. I mean, am I?
Have you seen it or no?
Hiking. They're trying to survive.
No, right. But
if working at Amazon outlets,
no, I'm not saying they're hiking. I was saying
right. They literally work at Amazon.
But when you adopt a certain lifestyle of kind of being free that way, right? Andrew, is that kind of what you're saying? Have people who get to a point where that's where they live?
Yeah, there's a certain amount of minimalism.
I do think that's what Andrew's saying. I don't think that's in Nomadland, but that's.
I will watch the movie. I will watch the movie. I just thought that.
Who's making that decision for that minimalism?
I thought that there were people in the movie that had that.
I guess that's fair. That's fair.
Mindset. I don't know.
It might be forced minimalism.
Right.
No. I know the bad guys.
Look, we're going to do a whole segment in the next half hour about movies we haven't seen. So let's wait on that. And let's
I know. You can reference a movie you haven't seen. I know that the bad guys are Amazon. The bad
guys.
They're actually helping them out.
You don't know what you're talking about.
Oh, okay. Oh, wait. No, but Amazon is a bad guy.
I know, but in the movie they're not.
Okay, in the movie they're not. Okay, so Andrew, to my
what movie, by the way?
To my I brought up a visual because you were trying to describe the majesty of this environment, and I'm wondering if you considered a visual element, because you've been watching. Now we have our podcast on YouTube. People freaking see us. Have you thought of any kind of like visual version of the cast? Because I mean, I imagine
you have to do the whole 200 miles again.
I imagine you took pictures and maybe.
Did you do any of your hike on Zoom?
Zoom. I didn't know about Zoom prior.
How often were you on mute at 5,000 feet in the air?
No, I mean, we are trying to share pictures on social media, and there's the show's called Trail Weight, and so like we have trailweight.co plug, but we're putting pictures and blogs and stuff up there to sort of.
That's great, right?
But at the same time, like I'm hoping that the story is more than just an adventure story, because I think. Right. If we can get a little bit deeper, get a little bit more personal, get a little bit more emotional, there's some deeper truths in it that hopefully we get to share. And so it's hopefully it works without the visuals necessary. And I do my best to poetically describe things.
Right. So to get a little bit more deeper and more personal, you were by yourself this whole time.
So I was yes and no. I mean, my girlfriend and I did the hike together, but when you're on a long distance hike, hiking 10 to 15 miles a day, you are alone for most of it. Even if you're a few steps apart, you're alone for a lot of it. But big sections of it, you sort of walk at your own pace and then meet at sort of designated areas. So a big part of my process was that being forced again to sort of deal and process what had happened in my life leading up to getting on the hike. And, at the end of the first episode, it's sort of, it feels weird to say cliffhanger because it's like your own life personal story that you
Cliffhanger was a movie that was basically about what you're talking about.
Yes.
Right?
And Amazon was the bad guy.
Amazon was the bad guy. Yeah. No, but so I had this grand decision to lose weight. I had this grand decision to lose weight and go on this journey. And a month into that, my mom passed away. And so still dealing with that today, let alone being on the hike, and still dealing with like a lot of like weird shame of like looking at like being, quote unquote overweight as a negative thing, and like wanting this transformation, this change in my body, but also like wanting to like not hate, like it's very weird to like want to make a change but not hate the version of you that you're trying to change out of.
100%. Yeah. Yes.
And one of the things that I learned specifically for me is that I cheated myself from feeling things because I was chasing efficiency, and I sort of confused grieving efficiency or losing weight efficiently or loving yourself efficiently with doing all those things well. So like when my mom,
I don't understand what that means. Can you explain that a little bit?
Yeah. So like when my mom passed away, I was like, okay, I'm not going to avoid this, push it down and pretend like it's, not deal with it. That's not healthy. But I tricked myself into thinking I was grieving well and sitting with it by saying, I'm going to try to do this as efficiently and as quickly as possible. And
like
so
I felt it and now I'm done.
I sort of going deep enough to like feel like I'm doing the work without actually doing the work.
And this was a month into the year before you go on this hike. Basically.
Yeah. So, and she passed away in the beginning of August, and the beginning of July is when I like started like, I'm going to do this project. I'm going to start recording and all this. And
you're like, stuff. Mom, thanks. I had enough conflict in the podcast. Jeez.
But at the other point, it also like weirdly, selfishly was motivating in the sort of way that's just like, stop putting plans off for tomorrow because like we're not guaranteed tomorrow, but being alone out there on the hike, it brought up a lot of stuff. Cause it's just like, what is a family? What is, a relationship? What is, Rocky and I, my girlfriend, we're out there. We're literally like relying on each other at times. Like, what is that relationship mean? What is going, like, how does my relationship now change with my dad or my brothers if we don't have the sort of, mother figure in our lives who she was very much like the glue that sort of held us all together. And, again, the sort of forcing yourself to deal with this stuff, it's like on the efficiency thing, I think what I struggle with is wanting to like feel something and then get it over with and go on to the next thing. And what I'm still learning today and what the hike definitely taught me is just like, it's not only okay to feel multiple things at once, but it's often like unavoidable. And so you can,
how it works.
Yeah. So I can be like the phrase I kept coming back to was like breathtaking. It's like my first instinct when I hear that is just like awe-inspiring beauty, but it's also like having your breath taken away from you is a very horrible thing. Right. And so I very much related with that experience out on the hike where it's just like surrounded by beauty and wonder and majesty and also carrying this heavy like grief and sadness and fear of the unknown.
And you're at 10,000 feet, so you're literally having difficulty with oxygen at that point.
Yeah, especially the first few days as you're acclimatizing. Like it was, and then that creates a whole nother thing because then I was just like, I thought I was in shape enough to do this. Do I have to quit now? Mm-hmm. And then just sort of the cycle continues. Because again, you're alone with your thoughts.
Close to passing out at any point or dizzy?
No, we did have to make a slight detour to the path just on one of the days because it's just like we were just going way slower than I had anticipated, and so it was just like, if we keep moving at this pace, it'll mess up the resupply schedule. And, but after like 3 or 4 days was fine. Because it's one of those things too, where like acclimatization or altitude sickness rather is still so confusing to experts.
Right.
Like we understand how it happens and why it happens, but we don't understand like how come it only affects some people and why some people, they can be affected by it, but other times they're fine. And then it's made worse if you like have any allergies or colds or, any gunk in your lungs.
Right. Or you're a podcast producer.
Yeah. So, or if you're carrying extra recording weight.
Can you give us like a summary of a typical day in terms of like you wake up, what happens then? How long does it take to get going?
That's a great
question. How long do you go for? You know what I mean?
Yeah. So wake up around 6 a.m., which wasn't hard because we went to sleep around 7 p.m. the night before.
It's not like you're carrying a bunch of lights around with you.
No. But also, you're just exhausted. So wake up around 7, tear down camp, and make breakfast, which was usually like some either like a bar, like a Cliff Bar protein bar type thing, or oatmeal, or occasionally we had like freeze dried breakfast where you add boiling water to. Carnation instant breakfast was a good thing because it's lots of calories, and you need lots of calories. So, through hiker tip number 12. So we'd spend about an hour, packing up, eating breakfast, putting on sunscreen, filtering water, whatever. And then we'd start walking and, walk till noon, stopping occasionally, but make some sort of lunch, which was usually. What
kind of distance would you do in that time on average?
Yeah, 4 to 6 miles.
And I'm not clear on this. Are you throwing your hat each time before you catch up with it, or,
At this point, it's throwing the water bottle because we'd lost the hats already.
I love that each time Andrew picked the hat back up, he's like, yes!
And then immediately throws it again.
It's like Frolf, Frisbee golf.
Frisbee golf.
Oh, Frolf.
Is this thing on?
I call it Gowsby.
So noon, you stop, you have lunch.
Tortilla-based meals. So tortillas filled with peanut butter, tortillas filled with cased meats. What are the preserved cased meats?
Chunks?
Or slices.
Cased chunks.
No, tortillas because they're easy to carry. And
they're small and they're light.
Yeah.
And then would hike again until about 5 o'clock, stop, make dinner, set up camp, and go to sleep. And along the way, you're stopping, taking pictures of beautiful places or just admiring the beauty, stopping to get water. I mean, luckily the Sierras, there's lots of water. So like finding water is very easy. And
how did you treat the water?
We have a lot of people
very kindly.
A lot of people will actually not, or they say you can, the water's clean enough in the Sierras that you don't need to treat it. We did. But the other thing is our hike was only, 3 weeks long and Giardia, I believe, takes 3 weeks to show up. So it's like by the time you're back down, you can just pop a couple pills and be fine. But we had just little water filters. They're like, they screw on top of a water bottle and you can drink straight through it if you want to, or you can use that to filter and fill other water bottles. I feel like this is the most boring aspect
Not
of it.
at all.
I'm giving so much details about water filters.
But see, if you don't do these things, then, and this has happened to people, you die out there.
Right.
Yeah. I mean,
you have to do very specific details.
The JMT is I mean, it's a through hike and it's, it's a big, it's a time commitment. It's a financial commitment. So there's not tons of people out there and it's permitted and there's like a lottery and they limit the amount of people who go back there because they don't want overuse. But at the same time, it's like one of the most popular long distance trails.
Right.
So it's not like you're going to be out there and nobody's going to know for 2 weeks.
I'm not going to
sprain
like
your ankle. Yeah.
Right.
It was McCandless. What's his name? Into the Wild.
Yeah. Into the Wild. Yeah.
Yeah.
Or the 27 hours guy.
Yeah. So,
McCandless just couldn't take it with Amazon anymore, and he had to get the fuck away from them.
Nomad
Andrew, after a long day of hiking with your thoughts, at the end of that day, that 2 hours when you're cooking dinner, how are you processing it? Or is it through this conversation?
So this is the weird benefit again of doing a podcast is I would pull up my recorder and sort of, Rocky and I might have a conversation about sort of what happened that day, or I might have. I mean, she had a journal that she would stop and write in every so often.
It's almost like checking in at the end of the day.
Yeah.
I
don't know where I came up with that idea.
But I imagine you guys didn't talk that much during the actual hiking.
No, and if we were, it was the conversation seemed very normal at times. And then at other times they were, one of the things I learned on this hike was sort of how to be in a relationship with someone during difficult times, during trauma, which, had the sort of family trauma, and then like the difficulty of the hike. And there's another story that I can talk about later, but we talk about in the podcast too. Like there was this one, the quick version is there was this one stretch of hike where it was kind of dangerous and there was snow covering the trail. So people were kind of route finding their own ways to sort of get back to the trail. but because they were off the trail, they had different vantage points that they would have if they were on the trail. And this one hiker about 200 yards ahead of us all of a sudden starts yelling, hiker down, hiker down. And he because of his approach, he saw like a weird dark spot. And then when he focused, he realized it was like a silhouette of a person. And
so scary.
Yeah. And so like to this day, like we still really don't know what happened, if the person was alive or dead, or if they'd been out there for a while. Cause it's, tried Googling, searching public records, talking with rangers, but at the time, either they didn't know or they couldn't tell. But so just like through a lot of these experiences, I learned that I'm a person who very much like goes inward, and Rocky's very much someone who is just like outward with a lot of this stuff. Like, this is horrible. This is awful. Like, I just want to leave. And so then I went, now I have to play Mr. Protector. Let's figure out how to get out. What's the quickest route to the nearest town where we can make a phone call, and just learning, like, I'm not actually listening in those moments. I'm just trying to like solve the problem, because she didn't actually want to leave. She was just, frustrated in a frustrating situation.
And you were having those same feelings, just not verbalizing them.
So I do.
Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
No, you go.
I was just going to say that of the stuff you're talking about now, more the emotional journey as you're doing this hike, like, it was Easter recently. I'm Catholic. There are times when stories of Jesus there's a story of him going off 40 days and 40 nights into the desert, that kind of spiritual retreat.
Like a vision quest.
Yeah. And the moments that always struck me learning about these stories was when the person has the moments of doubt, and I'm not to take you to any of those really difficult moments, but I'm just wondering if there was a moment, if there were some moments where,
did you get a visit from Satan?
What am I doing? Or do I want to check out? I mean, did that ever come to you?
Yeah, there was, so I mentioned we had to make like a little detour in one section, and part of that was like, since it was so early on and I was dealing with all this baggage of like I mentioned earlier about like wanting to change and transform, but still wanting to like not be ashamed of who I was before, like this, and similar to, I grew up not Catholic, but evangelical, and there's this, I wasn't taught this directly by anyone. Like, no one sat me down, no parents or family members, but like sort of misinterpreted like self-love as being selfish, or like, that's the only way I can think of saying it. So it's like this whole process, like and then it was brought back up when we had to do this detour, because it was like, I'm like the shame spiral of just like, I'm not good enough. I can't do it. I'm not in shape. I've spent all this money. I've spent a year of my life devoted to this thing. I have Bear Vault on the line who's going to be angry with me. I'm, I have, producers and other people that I'm like, that I've used. And then I have the other shame of like everyone
you took up Jamie's time by interviewing.
I know you owe it to me.
But like just other people, it's like, hey, like I'm telling all these people I'm going to do this, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do this. And it was just like, I don't think I can make it. I must not be underestimated how physically fit you need to be to do this.
Right.
And it's that classic, like altitude sickness is the perfect like example of things that are outside of your control that you try to control and fix. And after we made the decision to sort of take the detour, it's amazing how like all those feelings and stuff just started to go down. Everything seemed okay.
It was like a test.
We ended up staying camping in a place we hadn't planned, and unbeknownst to us, it had a toilet, which was like heaven on the trail. I mean,
right.
In any other situation, people would be scared to death to use this toilet, but after digging holes, it was heaven. And so it's like the weird, sort of you start to revisionist history or silver.
Sorry, so you find a toilet so you don't have to hold it anymore. Is that right?
Yes. Yeah, we were holding it this whole time, taking
doing the pee-pee.
Wait. Go back to the hole.
You were filtering your piss to drink.
Yes.
Right?
No, this toilet, it was literally just a big hole that was covered with plywood that had a like wooden box on it with a toilet seat and 3 walls of like corrugated metal that were 4 feet high. So you're like constantly
and you're like
making
Shangri-La.
Yeah, and it's just like I never want to leave another place. I mean, it was this beautiful meadow,
a bear
fish
behind Andrew
swimming
going
beside
like
you.
this. Yeah.
But until then, Andrew, you're digging holes.
Yeah, you dig cat holes is what they're called. I don't know the etymology of that, so I hope it's not offensive. Offensive to cats, maybe. But yeah, you're supposed to dig. Well, if you're you dig a hole, you do your duty. You take your not paper towel, what's it called? Toilet paper. And then you put that toilet paper into a trash bag that you then put back into your pack because you pack everything out. You bury it up, and then you go on your way.
Oh my God!
And then
out.
you pray, and then
on your trail.
That's a lot of
we actually talked about this a long time ago in the camping episode that we did, because when I went on one of these things mountaineering years ago, that's the first thing they talk about, because that's the biggest problem people have when they go out into the wilderness is talk about shame. Like people don't want to shit in a hole, and they don't, and then 4 days go by and they can't anymore, and it becomes a medical problem. So it is a very important part of this whole journey, is like being okay with like, okay, I'm gonna go dig a hole and take a shit,
Right.
Did you practice at Griffith Park?
Yes.
To get it down?
God, get arrested.
To Andrew running out.
Well, and it's interesting you talking about those struggles, because as a storyteller and as a podcast producer, if it went the way you wanted it to, where you like trained and then you did it and it was really easy and then you finished, like what is the story? Like that
you'd have to manufacture something.
So like of course you want struggle, like that's life, that's storytelling, but in the moment you can't zoom out and see that.
No. And then
do I have to be the character in this?
Yes.
Do I have to be the protagonist here of this story?
But similarly, there are other moments.
You're in the close-up. You're not in the long shot then.
Yeah. Oh. But there are other moments too where then like my editor hat, my like writer hat is on, and I'm like, oh, this is going to be a moment. And then of course those are the things that thinking that way ruins, because it's like you can't manufacture. It's never going to be the same as if it's something that actually happened. And so, to be honest, like I didn't listen to most of the audio and stuff I recorded for many months after, just because it's like I felt I needed to sort of get away and sort of rediscover it,
have some distance
with fresh ears. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So just to go back to your detour, so you detour and you're questioning the whole thing at this point, correct?
Yeah.
And you obviously went back and finished the hike. How did you come to that decision?
So it happened to be at a place where there was
also,
a junction.
Are we ruining your whole podcast?
No.
Okay.
If you ever hear me struggling and like thinking and pausing, that's what I'm doing. Is like I'm trying to. How can I talk about things without spoiling? But
Okay.
I don't know. The long shot audience may hate the podcast, and so
No way, Jose.
go listen.
Not-
Just listen and turn it on
They're
mute
gonna
so I
listen.
get the download numbers.
Self-love, Andrew. They're gonna love your podcast. I'm ready to listen.
Yeah,
to
it sounds
now.
fascinating.
It's incredible, dude.
So I mentioned that, like it starts on Mount Whitney, but it's the quickest, most direct way to the top of Mount Whitney is a 15-mile hike that most people do in a day or two. Also because of our permit, like they limit the amount of people who can start at different locations. So we were, we had to start even further south than that. And so it happened at a point in the hike where there was like a few different trails junctioning together, and we would have had to quote unquote backtrack to do the entirety of the JMT. And so it was also one of those things where like, is this technically the scorecard that we keep in our minds? Like, is this an actual literal through hike? Am I going to be, there going to be an asterisk next to my name of like, did not actually complete the entire thing. But so it happened at a point where it was very easy to make the
Roger
decision
Maris
of
the John Muir
Yeah.
trail.
So it's like, we don't have to backtrack and we can just stay here at this junction and then continue on the next morning. And so it happened at a time where luckily it was a very easy decision to make. But at the time it didn't feel easy. Like it felt like the most important decision in the world.
Your partner Rocky I imagine that could have helped having that other person there.
Yeah, but then it's also you're thinking about what other people think too, because it's like she's much more fit than I am. She in high school she ran cross country. I would get tired thinking about running cross country.
It's a long way.
Like Forrest Gump.
And like I mentioned, we would walk at our own paces. So she would, often walk faster than me and go ahead of me. So I'm also thinking, am I letting her down? How annoyed is she that this is happening?
Oof, you got to free yourself of that. I hope you do by the end of the podcast.
And then too, it is one of those things like, we've admittedly this was more my dream than her dream, but it was something she's looking forward to do too. So it's like, if I decide that we need to go back, that's a big thing. But then she's also like, she wrote in her journal, like, she was a little concerned about me, come to find out now after we've been back that there are some, medical heart history stuff in my own family, and so it's like, that was unbeknownst to us at the time, but, it's just like you're worried about someone who's struggling when you're this
She's
far
worried
away.
about you physically at that point.
Yeah. And I'm 3 times her size. So like if something did happen to me, like
right.
she
can't
can't
just,
carry
throw
me
you over
out.
her shoulder.
Yeah.
And
I think
You're like the
supposed to
Grinch's heart
say-
after that day compared to the Grinch's heart before that day, because it grew. Yeah.
2 Grinch's hearts.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And to be specific, no Sherpas were accompanying you on this hike.
No, you can hire
guides,
pack mules. It's graded for horses and mules, the whole entire trail. So you can, but
wow, you'd have to bring all their food as well.
Yeah,
I guess they could carry it. I don't know.
And then
Pick up their shit.
Sorry, I'm not carrying
Yeah,
we got to dig holes for them.
you got to dig. There are cat holes too. Oh my goodness,
Horse holes.
horse holes.
So did you pass
Aaron
a lot
just
of
asked
horses?
if there was cell service, and no. There's maybe pockets rarely, but this is in no cell service. Some people did have, and we didn't at the time, but we do now for future hikes. Little like Garmin GPS SOS type stuff.
So how
which
did
is
you
what's
check like Facebook or Instagram or whatever? How would you
just
have
imagined
to do
it.
that?
Just to, people can listen to the podcast, they can hear the whole story, but just to wrap up, you get back.
You edit this, right? You're going to cut out all the boring parts of me and
None of
it
this is
has
boring.
smart
No, it's
and
not-
make me sound
we are.
intelligent,
That's not my point.
or make me
That's not
sound
my point.
offensive. Make me offensive. I've just as long as it's edited.
Well, you did apologize for saying cat holes in case that was something concerning. So I think we're safe.
You did. You said you did not know the etymology of that.
So Andrew, going forward, you said you're going to have a GPS. Like, what's the next adventure? What's season 2, basically?
Yeah, I do have ideas for multiple seasons. We're tentatively planning on doing the Tahoe Rim Trail this summer, which is it's like a 2-week long hike in sort of the mountain ranges, and it circles that. We had talked about doing the Camino de Santiago, which is like a walk across Spain. But amazing. COVID changed some of those plans, so we may do that.
Is that the pilgrimage route?
It's follows the way of St. James.
St. James, right?
And you stay in a hostel every night and eat,
paella,
Spanish butter food. Sandwiches.
Paella every night.
So much paella.
So I'd love to. I would love to do the
cat hole. Please make that a bigger cat hole.
I would love to do the Pacific Crest Trail at some point, but that's like a 5-month journey from Mexico to Canada. Share some of the same trail we were on. But I don't know about that. But then there's also other interesting story. I mean, obviously this is a story of the hike, but the hike is also a metaphor for a lot of different things. And I think there's a lot of really interesting stories about outdoors. And, I talk with a few people actually about the biological effects that nature has on people and how it's being used to treat post-traumatic stress disorders in veterans. So there's a lot of really interesting stuff like that. There's a lot of stuff about the land back movement, which is a lot of Native Americans are advocating for all public land that the government owns to be returned to Native Americans. There's stories of Mineral King, which is now part of it's an area that's now part of Sequoia National Park, was once almost purchased by Walt Disney to turn into a ski resort, and the Country Bear Jamboree was developed for this ski resort, and it led to the Sierra Club suing
everyone.
But it created, what's it called? Precedents in court? Is that what it's called? Legal precedents?
Yeah, legal precedents.
For
the White House.
Does nature have
a right? Sort
does
of.
precedent? Yeah, who the Lorax? What it's like? Who will speak for the trees or whatever? And I guess that's had tons. So there's a lot of really interesting stuff that I've discovered.
There's a lot going on in that sense. You got Walt Disney, you got Dr. Seuss, you got legal precedents, you got national parks, the Sierra. It's a lot.
So the more I spend time in this scene, quote unquote, the more interested I become.
The scene is outside.
Yeah. I don't know. I've been talking for an hour.
No.
I just have one. Just
the podcast is very scripted. I'm not used to just talking about it off the top of my head.
You're killing it.
You're doing great. I just had one last thing, because I feel like the point of the whole journey is, how do you feel now as a person? And
do you love yourself?
Well, in a way, I didn't want to say do you feel stronger, because I think there's so many ways to take that word. But as far as knowing who you are, Andrew, or
I think that the phrase that sort of we found while making the podcast was, I thought this was going to be a story about weight loss, but little did I know it would be about loss of a completely different type.
Right.
And really, what I discovered is sort of these sort of different, everything from losing control and being okay with that to losing my mom to sort of losing ignorance or blinders in certain phases. So I think where I'm at today is if this hike was the process of losing, I'm today in the process of picking things back up and putting them back together.
And you're literally wearing your hat, so
right. So you got it.
Get there.
That's because I have a COVID buzz haircut, that I don't like. But
all right, well, let's take a break for a moment, and then we'll be back with the beginning of the show that we like to call checking in.
Hey, long shot fans.
Yeah. Hey, everybody, it's Sean. And I guess what I would like you to do is go to iTunes and check out an episode of Trail Wait, the new podcast from Andrew Steven, who you're listening to on this episode. I have heard one episode. I really enjoyed it, and I look forward to more. So in case you didn't get a clue from the fact that we've been plugging it all episode, do it now and enjoy it. And now back to our regularly scheduled programming. We're back. You're listening to The Long Shot, Come Hell or High Water. Our guest today is Andrew Steven. We always start the show with a segment that we like to call Checking In. So let's get into that. Starting today with Andrew. What's been going on?
Do you have an hour? I have some things I'd like to talk to you about.
Let's start checking in today with Jamie.
Great. I'll make it quick because why not? I mean, I'm so inspired by Andrew, and there's so many themes that came up in that including specifically, like in the last 24 hours, I was overcome with, I need to plan a trip. It's been 20 years. 20 years ago, I went on a 3-month trip to Europe with a backpack and did that whole thing. And I haven't been on a big trip or adventure like that in 20 years. And I started just kind of feeling into like, what would it feel like if I knew a year from now or 6 months from now that I was going to Ireland or Africa or now I'm like, yeah, maybe I should consider a month-long walk in wilderness or something like that. Anyway.
Don't get lost, Jamie. Come back. You got to make sure you know.
Well, I'm going to bring Rocky with me.
Just remember, this is the thing for Jamie, is hearing about something and then saying, I'm going to do that. So I hope that this comes true.
Well, and I think the listener made this point in the mailbag letter. I don't know if you heard it, Jamie, but it's like that you can be inspired by the sentiment and have that propel you with what you're doing and not do literally exactly the same thing.
Sure. I think that ultimately happens, but I do get carried away, of course.
Cut to Jamie after the podcast, just running outside and throwing his hat over a fence.
I have a lot of hats that need to be thrown. I can, the last few weeks, and I think it was already starting to kind of bubble up in the last time I was on the show, but I feel like I'm evolving quickly. I think we might have mentioned last episode I was on, but we're going to reopen the theater probably in July. I mean, July 1st is our plan. But the momentum and the excitement of just having this thing, and just I'm re-tapping into a version of myself more and more every day that I haven't been acquainted with in
a year,
at least a year, but actually even beyond that to like pre-Dynasty when like everything was possible. And I'm sure it's for many reasons, but having a year to reflect, having 3 years of experience running Dynasty, knowing how I'll do things differently this time. And I'm just like tapping into like every idea, every possibility. There's an energy inside of me that I haven't felt like this in a long, long time. So it's exciting, and there's a million epiphanies. I don't remember if on the last epiphanies I've had.
Too many epiphanies.
Mental image, like MJ, Jamie. I'm
yes,
your head exploding like fireworks coming out.
It does, honestly. That doesn't even feel like a metaphor. That's how it feels.
No, you might need medical attention.
Yeah.
Possibly.
Are you on heroin?
Do you have cell phone service where you are for emergencies?
We'll crowdfund you a donkey.
Thank you. I forgot on the last episode if I mentioned this, but in the beginning of April, one of my best friends and I decided to do a 30+ day thing where we just said all these things that we wanted to try to do every single day. And it reminds me again of Andrew, of having like these checklists of things you want to do to get better and improve, working towards a goal. but including writing every day, meditating, a lot of things I was already doing, but just having this added accountability has just helped me. But of all the things,
I'm sorry to stop you, but is there something weird going on with Jamie's
it feels like you're
internet right now?
Fast forward or something.
Yeah. Sorry, go ahead, Jamie. Let's see what happens.
Is it better? So the biggest, I think, thing is that every single day I'm committed to writing for at least 20 minutes, and it's journaling, and I've been journaling forever.
That's great.
But the shape of the journaling and how I'm having a conversation with myself has been evolving at this quick rate, where I think the biggest thing is this self-compassion that has been largely missing for most of my life. Like, it's not something I haven't had a relationship with at all. Like it's been there in little phases, but now chunks. It's become this it's been chunks over the last decade.
In a tortilla.
But every day now, that's become part of the language in my head, is to look at what I've done or haven't done and instantly give myself this grace. And I'm just not used to it. I'm not used to forgiving myself so quickly and having this compassion. And it's completely shifting everything. And
can I say something?
Yeah.
I might be talking way out of turn, but like I sense it. Like your energy feels like it's shifted. And I don't know how to explain it. Does anyone else on this?
That might be his internet connection.
No, but it feels
I'm
like
getting a little bit of it too, Amber.
You are.
I think it's the lamp.
You're chiming in jokes in a way where it's like truly your voice, but you're confident behind it. And
I killed it. I killed it during Andrew's segment. Those jokes were boom.
I don't know. It
but
does,
I know what you mean.
Well, they were certainly in your voice.
It feels like something has like aligned for you in a beautiful way. You. I'm trying to be supportive, and I realize now it might be bad.
No, I only feel supported.
No, I'll second what Amber's feeling, because Jamie, the way you just said what you said before we started to compliment you was, it just came out sounding very clear and very direct and very aware of yourself. And I thought, and maybe it felt even more that way because the last couple times you've been on the show, as you mentioned, it was bubbling and getting there. And it sounds like you're not at the same point you were 2 weeks ago, for sure.
Yeah. And it also sounded really fast forwarded.
Right. That was part of it.
Right.
But yeah, the last 2 weeks, I feel like it's the routine of it and the presence of it, of actually, and I think it is the writing that helps, and these more checking in with myself throughout the day and taking stock of literally how I approach every moment, looking at like, the last 3 hours, I was totally out of my head. What happened there? And asking these questions and being like, I didn't really have a plan. And so I kind of was on autopilot from 4 to 7 p.m. And now that I'm writing this out, I'm actually seeing that. And how can I improve that tomorrow? Well, tomorrow at 4 o'clock, I'm going to check in with myself, actually look at my to-do list, look at the things that are priorities and map it out. So I know from 4 to 8 o'clock, I'm going to have 2 30-minute writing sessions or emails or whatever it is. And then actually putting in and after 8 o'clock, I can relax. Like that has not been built into my life.
I got lost
every
in the
single day.
Schedule there.
He's relaxing. By the end of it, he's relaxing.
Giving yourself permission because you've spent this time being productive, that now I don't have to spend the evening beating myself up for not being productive, right?
Exactly. It's a new muscle. And also just really identifying these are all muscles. And I think it's a level of control. And as I kind of zoom out a little bit, like if I can control all this, and this is just the beginning of it, like I can really see how I can really be in control of my life in a new way when I'm not just reacting to things. And it's just, there's an excitement to it because I feel like I'm honing something that I never quite have. And
you mentioned that you're zooming out. Do you feel like you're trying to get to the long shot?
Wrote that down, Sean, when you mentioned it earlier, because it's uncanny to me that is like the theme of our podcast ultimately is.
and none of us can really harness it.
Right.
I feel like I'm finally harnessing it. And part of it is with the tracking of everything. And I think that I was thinking about Andrew with, seeing progress. my goal has been to do yoga every day and try doing push-ups, and I have a few like exercises I'm trying to do. For example, yesterday ended up being I didn't sleep. I got my vaccine the night before, and I think it did like absolutely get me fluish, and it affected my sleep.
I'm glad that you got it.
Thank you. And but I didn't get to the exercises in the morning. I went to my parents all day to help them out with stuff. I didn't get to it. And like, as long as I've known you, the dialogue and the conversation is shame.
Would have been like, fuck me, I'm the worst.
Yeah, what the fuck? I fucked up. Like my goal was to, and then it's like I start journaling to myself. It's like, hey, it's all good.
You had a tough day. You'll do it tomorrow. It's not a big deal.
I'll do it tomorrow. And then I did it this morning and it felt great. But going back to the zoom out, it's like starting to really look at, I'm sure this concept has come up. And a lot of these epiphanies have happened over the last 10 years. Like I'm sure in 2000.
And they'll happen again. Yeah.
They will. But like, if we look at the graph of our progress and that zoom out, it's like, no, this is all trending up. If you look at today's little graph, it's like, might be trending down.
It might be a squiggle, but it's all squiggling up, is what you're saying?
That's
squiggle
it.
Squiggle up, squiggle up, squiggle up.
You got to zoom out to see the squiggle up.
Squiggle up, squiggle up, squiggle up.
And so I think I can kind of leave it at that. There's some other specific things in there, but I'm just really excited for the future and just I'm feeling momentum. I'm seeing a new creativity and excitement in ways. And I know it's very much, of course, in line with, coming out of a pandemic. I know that might not be exactly the case, but it's definitely seemingly a lot of conversation I'm having. A lot of people are awakening in this way too. And it makes perfect sense for what we all been through. And I think every day is like, oh, right. I knew it was a really tough year. I was like, I was really depressed. I was really bad. Yeah. Every single day I'm feeling that. And one more thing I'll add is, like this was one of my epiphanies because, throughout every single day I'm feeling regrets.
Of a million so
far. And I got to say, I'm so glad because when you said one more thing I want to add, I was like, in my head, I was like, I hope this is another fucking epiphany. Like I would love
okay, here it is.
Yeah.
You got nine. Okay, go ahead.
I start throughout my day. I have regrets popping into my head, just these moments from my life that come up and I'll start thinking about, I'm like, fuck that. I did that. How embarrassing at any point in my life. And it just occurred to me, if you are feeling regret about anything, then that only means that you have evolved since then. And like, that's that's one of the things I'm retraining. Like if I have that cringy moment, I'm like, oh my God, I can't believe I said that or did that or whatever it was. I'm like, no, I'm only having this thought because there's a version of me now that sees how that was something.
Again.
As long as I'm not doing it again, it's good. So it's just
victory.
Like starting to see how all these neural pathways and how I have all these built-in reactive responses to everything in my life.
Oh my God, Jamie just turned into a mad scientist.
No, I'm loving it. There's a scene in Godzilla versus Kong where a guy...
Which you have not seen, correct?
I have seen. This one I have seen to show you my cinematic taste. I haven't seen Nomadland. I did manage to catch Godzilla versus Kong. And there's a guy, Jamie, who gets into a cerebral connecting device that allows him to control a robot Godzilla. And that's what I'm imagining, that you're like, when you said those neural pathways, I'm imagining you connecting with something in a much bigger way than you have before. Not a robot Godzilla, but
with the monster that is you.
With the monster that is you. And the Mecha Godzilla is actually stronger than Godzilla. Like he's actually better designed. I think you're redesigning yourself.
I don't think that. I think that's exactly the best way to put it. And I think that's like knowing that we all have the capacity to do that, to redesign what's happening up there is thrilling. Isn't it the most exciting thing? Like,
right.
I can just like, I'm just beginning to identify the places where like, oh, that happens there. And I react to that every time. I got to change that because that's
I feel like you're becoming a cult leader and I mean it in a nice way.
Yeah. I mean, it's that classic thing of like a very positive compliment that you're becoming a cult leader.
This feels like a second coming of the Encantada though, doesn't it? I mean, it feels like
it's 100%. I think I was having in a similar-ish place then. But the difference was that all came out of
shame.
Immaculata, which was built around
being about perfect. Yeah.
being perfect. And inevitably, a 30-day thing might have enough kind of a momentum to last a little longer. But in my experience, at a certain point, I can't keep that up. And so now it's like, yeah, if a couple of days go by, I exercise because I feel better. Like just remind myself I'm doing these things because they're good for me. Like I wouldn't put myself through painful things if they weren't good. So exercise and meditation and certainly writing, like as long as I'm doing these things and actively checking in with myself, like
does it have a name?
Maybe that's the most evolved part of all of this, Sean. There's no name. It's Jamie.
Jamie. This is
Jamie.
Like,
it's Jamie.
This is not an evolved version of Amber, because I'm just saying, like, I told you so. But like, you're just verbalizing back, and you finally internalized what I have been saying to you for 11 years.
100%. And I mean,
it's a long hike, Amber.
But you have to get there yourself. You have to get there yourself.
It's a long hike.
It's a long hike. I think that is perfect.
Almost metaphor. 12 years.
Is that true? That's crazy if it is. But
Amber, check your calendar. She's got all the
remembering that this is the work, and it really is like you have to hear things over and over and then experience them in new ways. And that is the journey of life. Like, and I think I'm far from having everything figured out. Like, but like how it's affecting Dynasty and like letting go of having everything, even having known exactly how it's going to like play out day to day. Like I'm letting go of like having to control every little thing of what every day should be. I don't know. It's just kind of all
right.
Outwardly
It sounds very healthy, and I'm very excited for you.
Have you read Viktor Frankl at all, Jamie?
No.
Man's Search for Meaning. He was a Jewish doctor in the concentration camps, but this is like the very super simplistic version of it, but it sounds kind of like what you're talking about, where he said like the in order to have a meaningful life, like to have purpose, it's to have a project to work on, people to share it with, which I think you're describing that. And those are the easier things to do. And then the hardest part is to redeem like past experiences and to look at something that was negative and find the good in it. And it sounds like that's what you just described.
Check.
Yeah.
You ever read The Secret? Because it's like you just put it out there and it comes back. So, you know.
Hey, Sean, I really believe in that shit too, and the power of what's it called? Attraction or law of attraction.
Mm-hmm.
That was, there's the synchronicities just do come into play whenever I open up like this. And the one I can think of was we applied for a grant, like for Dynasty. And it was a long shot through a business thing.
Hello.
Wow, cool. That just came out, guys.
You are welcome.
Whoa.
Yeah.
But it took
There are
weeks.
no coincidences.
It took weeks to get to even see if we were available. And like it was kind of a slog trying to get this company that was like putting out the grants to like upload this and now upload that. And that's not the right file. And we don't still, anyway, the day that it came through that we're getting the grant was that morning we met with our accountant to look at the numbers, and it was like looking at, it's not been a lucrative time to be at the last year.
Yeah, I can't imagine.
But there was a specific number that like a very specific number was like, this is what the loss was.
And that's what the grant was?
And the grant was exactly that. And it was like, even if that is coincidence,
Wow.
It's cool. Like it was just like, wow, okay.
You outlived the ArcLight.
Somehow we
outlived the ArcLight,
which is so sad.
I don't want to spoil anything, but I will say I've heard rumors the ArcLight may be coming back as the Dynasty ArcLight. So
that would be dope as hell.
Oh my God.
Everyone could be enchanted.
Dynasty typewriter at the ArcLight.
And there's Sean now made me think the giant atrium of the ArcLight is covered in fake vines and plants.
We're getting rid of the vines.
Full jungle.
That's the thing too.
Jungle.
And the Cinerama Dome is just that ball in the typewriter that, like has all the letters on it. Yeah.
I love that.
That is dreamy.
That would be incredible.
All right, checking in. Let's go next to Andrew. No, Joe.
All right,
Joe
good.
Wagner.
I'm glad. Okay, I'm glad. Then Amber will come after because I'm a bummer this week. As I teased earlier, wasn't the greatest week, and the thing that hit me was that the last recording I was like, it was a good week. So it is the ups and downs.
It's the squiggle going up. You're fine.
It's the squiggle. It's squiggled hard this week. It just squiggled hard. I started off the week with a lot of, again, good energy, motivation. And then my co-writer, Matt, who I've mentioned, he had just some bad news. He has a family member that got a cancer diagnosis. Luckily, it's early and it seems like it'll be low grade. And anyway, so he called. He's
out of commission.
He called to tell me that. And so we, just was, feeling for my friend. And that
was kind of the project keeping you going.
It's the thing that's kept myself and my very dear friend who I've known like 30 years now kind of going. And so he's a very, I would say he's a very strong guy in terms of medical stuff. He's had chronic conditions his whole life. He got diabetes when he was 21, which is uncommon. I actually took him to the hospital when we had no idea what was happening, but he had lost a bunch of weight and he was peeing all the time and always felt thirsty, which are symptoms of diabetes. And I took him to an urgent care in LA, and the guy looked at him and said, "You have to go to the emergency room right now." And he almost slipped into a diabetic coma.
Oh my God.
When he was 21. Like it was like, I think his maybe second or third year in LA. So my friend Matt's he's gone through some stuff and he's pushed through. Anyway, so that was at the beginning of the week. Towards the end of the week, I got this text from my aunt who said, your mom and I decided to go to the Mayo Clinic because she's found some blood in her urine.
Oof.
And so I was texting them, and ultimately on Thursday night they were there from 5 till about 11. And they did tests, and they did a lot of tests, which is a good thing because they're in very good hands there, and they feel very safe there with the Mayo Clinic. And they did a lot of tests, and they're going to be, evaluating the results. And she has an appointment coming up already with the urologist. So everything is moving. And she's in okay spirits. She's in good spirits because a couple years ago, they were like, there's some microscopic blood in the urine, but that's okay. It can happen with the elderly. And anyway, but it's one of those things where still just kind of waiting to see,
it's unsettling.
It's been unsettling.
Also, I don't care for Mayo, but
well, as far as hospitals go, I'm glad she's there. That was always my mom. My mom had a very practical thing in terms of where she was going to retire, which was she wanted to live in a city where there is a Mayo Clinic or a Mayo.
That's very
hospital.
Smart.
So because she trained there. Her whole career, she trained as an electroencephalographic technologist at the Mayo Clinic in Rochester, Minnesota. So she has a very strong bond of trust with them. I mean, she's been disappointed at times, but every doctor is different. But so that happened this week, and I do think there is something about the law of attraction, Jamie. I do think that there's something about Andrew being on the podcast today, because since Thursday, that was Thursday night. The positive on Friday, the squiggle, was they got their second vaccine shot. So that was good. That was like, okay, good. They're in a better place than they were yesterday. My mom's doing fine. She says, she's been drinking more water. and the color seems much better. And so I was thinking just about what Andrew has been talking about, because I woke up today not feeling, and I think we've all mentioned this in some way during recording this during this time, I didn't feel like talking. I felt like listening. I'm ready. I just want to listen. Because this is the first time I'm trying to kind of talk out what the last few days have felt like. But I think one thing that has helped me through this whole thing, in terms of trying to look at it a certain way, to get some control over it, but not feel like I have to absolutely ace it, whatever that means, but is like, I'm really trying to take it day by day, almost moment by moment. The fact that this podcast is happening, and that I got to listen to Andrew talk about his whole experience, and then Jamie, you finding inspiration off of that, has helped me by this point be able to say, like, I'm feeling better. I'm feeling better. I'm trying to do what I can, and not waste time putting myself down for what I can't. And I think that's something we talk about on this show all the time, is that feeling of control. What can we control? What can't we? And how we try to navigate that. So it's been one of those weeks where I wrote to my the family member and my friends, the family member that related to my friend. It's a bladder thing. They also had blood in their urine.
Oh,
and
wow.
So I know.
That's
and
wild.
So I wrote to him. I wrote to him telling him, hey, guess whose mom is in is at the hospital right now, because they're doing tests because she had blood in her urine. And I said, there must be something going around. And then I told my mom that when I spoke to her the first time I got to speak to her, and I just got a laugh out of her, because I wrote Matt and I said, hey, there must be something going around. And she's like, oh, there's something going around. And that was just enough to make me think about whatever I can do in the moment. And that I feel like that's the moment I can control, or something, and even if I didn't know what to say, just know that there is an opportunity, there's a moment to whatever the next 2 or 3 weeks are like, and fingers crossed, and I, praying a rosary every night of just that, it could be something. I had blood in my urine once, and I had to go to a urologist, and they break it down. It's like when, it's not WebMD, it's an actual person who writes on the whiteboard, here are the 7 things it could be. And the last one is always cancer, but
I have not had blood in my urine, but I have put blood in my urine a few times. So
delicious.
Just a swirl.
See what it looks like, yeah.
Like a Shirley Temple, with a little umbrella in it. But it's one of those things where I think there's a good chance that this could be something relatively or literally benign.
Right.
We'll see.
But it's the unknown that is.
It's the unknown. And the thing is that right now, I've actually gotten to this point, talking it out right now, listening to people talk has just gotten me to a point where I'm like, and tomorrow is Sunday, and we'll navigate that. And Monday, Gloria has an appointment with her doctor, and she's going to go in person. And I feel much better about that now that they've gotten their second shot, even though it hasn't been 2 weeks. But I'm just trying to ultimately, at some point in the day, take the inventory, be grateful for whatever I can be, and do something. Like this week, I know I have not filed yet for. There's basically $100 million in federal aid for renters right now in LA, and you can apply for.
And if you do it quick, you could get like 20% of that.
It's they have said
move it to a mansion.
They have said that they will pay up to 80% of back rent.
Wow.
Up to. So I imagine there's some kind of sliding scale, but I did manage to do that earlier in the year.
Oh yeah, I remember.
Remember that? Yeah. and I got a little money from my landlord. And one of those things that I just started to let go, and I'm like, okay, that's the thing that I want to try to pull back and see how, even if the first time I try, I hate filling out stuff, because I always hit that point where they're asking for something that I don't know if I have or I don't know if I remember. And then I hit that wall and I check out. The last time I did it, it was simple enough that I was able to do it. I had to get some stuff. I had to prove that I had lost my job or my line of employment. So I'm going to try to do that this week. That's my goal this week. And I hope to next.
You could prove that you had lost your job by showing them the Snoop Dogg doing a Bud Light commercial, and like he's not hosting Joker's Wild anymore,
he's
right?
Not Joker's Wild anymore. No,
whatever commercial he's doing now.
I mean, I think in my Twitter bio it's former. No, I think wrote for at Joker's Wild, and I think the Twitter account is defunct. The thing being, it's been a little rocky. I'm trying to ride the waves, and I'm just
that was one of Andrew's alternate titles for his podcast.
It's been a little rocky, or riding the waves. I think I'm just going to try to keep going and take each day by day. That's really what it comes down to for me.
I love it.
And you know, I'm not proud. You know, I'm not proud. This was a week of a lot of sleeping. That's how I end up kind of dealing with a lot of that, is that I just try to sleep a lot, you know, and I know that there's some better use of my time. So I'm going to try to do that. We'll see how it goes.
All right.
At the end.
Great. Checking in, Amber.
I got a dog.
Yes. Boom. There's the turn.
He's on the couch right now with his bully
That's
stick.
how you do
so
the turn.
I'm not gonna bug him. There was some. If you guys were watching the YouTube, you got some sneak peeks. But yeah, as I discussed before, it felt very impossible. It felt very Herculean.
Right.
So I was applying, and this little dude posted on last Saturday, so a week ago, early in the morning. I happened to be up. I saw that he posted like a minute earlier. So I was like, I'll apply. But I was very not attached. It was very zen, where I was like, it's not going to happen, but here's my application. And then Sunday night, I got an email being like, he's your dude if you want him. And I was like, we need to dog proof the house really quick. Because like we didn't expect it to happen like that. Well, we were eligible to go meet him, and if it went well, we could take him home from that meeting. And because that came Sunday night and we weren't ready on Monday, and I had a very busy work day on both Tuesday and Wednesday, we had an appointment to meet him Thursday at lunch. And yeah, he's a baby. His name's Smudgy. We think like 11 weeks old. He's an absolute baby. He peed on his pee pad while I was in the shower, and I have never in my life heard Jeff happier. Like it was like a freaking absolute celebration. So it's an adjustment. We're both kind of tired because he's a baby. So we're, even when he sleeps, we're kind of like aware of every sound he makes, and but he's a really good boy. The funny thing is, he has an appointment for his second round of vaccines on Wednesday, and then a week
Pfizer
later,
or Moderna.
Exactly. Well, a week after that, he's allowed to be outside, but for the time being, he can't even go for walks. So, like, it's hilarious that he's exactly where we are, like in this weird way. So, like, even today, I finally went for a long walk, but we had to do it when we knew Jeff was going to be home with him. Like, I thought I would get a dog and then go for long walks with my dog, but I have to figure out ways to go for walks without my dog. It's very strange.
But that will change in like a week.
In a week from Wednesday, we'll be able to take him out. And here he is. He brought his bully stick over. Let me see. Do you want to make your debut? Oh, this
Smudgy.
is Smudgy.
Oh my God.
Oh,
Hi,
he doesn't
Smudgy.
like this.
Oh my God.
I took him there. Go back to your bully stick. But yeah.
What is Smudgy?
He is a super mutt, but we think his dad is a Chihuahua pug mix, and the mom might be some sort of terrier. He came from Bakersfield, so he's been through a lot already in his young life.
He's got a podcast about it.
Yeah, exactly. But he's very attached to me. We right now it doesn't seem like it, but I mean, it's only been like 2 full days, and
Did he come as the name Smudgy? Or
No,
is that your name?
no. That's us. He was named Pan, which was part of the cosmic part. My parents had a dog named Pan that they absolutely loved. So his name in adoption was Pan. Why are you making those noises?
That was incredible.
That was a real reaction.
I've never heard Sean make that noise before.
His name was Pan, so that felt a little cosmic, and
that's a very specific name to have.
Yeah, it's a weird name for a dog.
Wow.
Yeah.
Why are you being like this? You're so good all the time, and now that you're on camera, you're acting like a bad puppy. Okay, you go down. You go down.
He's going for it.
And
Look at me. I'm Smudgy.
But yeah, he's expensive. We had to buy a bunch of like baby gates because the hallway between our bedroom and Jeff's office, he loves to poop in. Like primo spot.
No
but we put some gates up and we're hoping he figures out. It's tough because we can't even take him out to get him used to that.
How did you come to the name Smudgy?
Jeff and I have had an imaginary dog named Smudgy for about a decade. Like when we go for long trips.
Is that imaginary dog jealous now?
Well, that's what I keep being like. Smudgy's real now. Like you exist now. It's so weird. But we would go for like long trips and we'd come home and we'd open the door and we'd always say like, Smudgy, did you do your homework? Like stuff like that. Like we've talked about Smudgy for so long. So he was gonna be Smudgy. And
so not only is he imaginary, but he goes to school.
Right. No,
I don't think you know what a dog is.
It didn't make any sense, but he's really, really good. I'm in love with him. He smells so good. I know that sounds insane, but
he got puppy smell. Wait, so I guess then the question, Amber, would be, where did the name Smudgy for an imaginary dog come from then?
When I still worked at the bank, I remember I was in West Hollywood.
Right.
And I was going for a walk and I heard somebody call their dog and they're like, Smudgy, come here. And I immediately texted Jeff and I was like, just heard a dog's name, Smudgy, love it so much. And he was like, give me a pic of the dog. What did it look like? And I was like, I have no idea. That's not what it's the name we're talking about.
Smudgy.
Not
I love Smudgy.
But yeah, so it's a big change and it's really wild to see. I know it's just a dog, but like Jeff as a parent, like it's a different role than I've ever seen him in. It's really cute and sweet, and we're figuring it out. There's a lot we don't know, and everything. It's just like parenting blogs. Like everything you read, it's like they need to eat every 2 hours. They don't need to, everything says completely contradictory information. So we just have to
not only contradictory, but like if you do that, you're a fucking idiot.
Exactly. So we have to just kind of pick
of the internet.
A lane. Yeah. But he's already enrolled. He's going to go to some obedience trainings in May. Like we're trying to do it right. I don't know. We'll see. Because Jeff has never had a pet in his life. And I've never had a puppy. The dogs I grew up with, they all were like a year old when we got them. So this is like a whole new thing for both of us.
When does a puppy stage end? How many
Never.
months in are you?
Always puppies.
You're all puppies to Andrew, baby.
I mean, at least a year.
A year.
And we're,
Did puppy come from Poopa? Like the Poopa stage? I never thought about that. There might be some sort of crossover. It's something to look into, but
okay.
The Poopa stage?
Like a poop egg in a
Puppy,
caterpillar
puppy.
butterfly scenario.
You're saying the puppy's going to go through a metamorphosis at some point?
Slowly over time, but then they're just going to be like, bam!
Mm-hmm.
All that hard work paid off.
All right. So, new puppy. Very exciting. Smudgy. Not allowed outside. We'll be in a week and a half.
We're all quarantined, the whole family.
Uh-huh.
How's he sleeping?
He's good. He's a good boy. He cries a little bit at night. He has his own bed at the foot of our bed, and he cries like a tiny bit, but then he sleeps through the night, which is apparently, when I talk to other people, impressive. Like some baby puppies at this age are like newborn babies.
Right,
they just cry all night. So.
All right. Well, it looks like it's time on the show for a segment that we like to call Parting Shots. So why don't we start parting shots today with Joe? Joe, parting shots to you.
Here we go. Parting shots. First thing was Amber made me remember when I got a puppy. I wanted one so bad, and I researched it.
Who is it?
We found a corgi dealer. It was across the state. He doesn't like hearing about another dog. And we drove about 4 hours to go get this corgi puppy, and we drove
from a corgi dealer.
And I loved. I think it was a Pembroke corgi, or what? I think there's Pembroke and Welsh. I think it was Pembroke, and we brought it home. And the first night, and I didn't really understand this as a kid, but like, it had been taken away from the litter and from its mother, and so it cried all night in the kitchen, and I was so disturbed by that. I just felt so bad. I said, Mom, can we have Polka? We called her Polka. Can we have Polka stay?
Polka the Pembroke corgi.
Polka the Pembroke corgi. And I said, can we have her stay in the room? And she said, yeah, okay. And so we brought her up. And within a minute, the poor thing was farting so much and so bad that I went to my mom's bedroom and I said, I want to take the dog back downstairs because I can't sleep in my room. It smells so bad. It just filled with this poor.
So you thought it was a good idea to blame it on the dog?
In this case, it was Polka. Number two. Okay. I know this is not.
Where are you going? What's happening?
I know. Well, number two, congratulations on Smudgy, Amber. I think that's so great because you talked about it on the show and you finally have it. I feel like it's like, I don't know, with the whole hiking and trail metaphor, I feel it's like we're all reaching different points in our hikes, and like you got the dog. That's like life-changing. I think that's so cool. I've been thinking about like how when you get the lonely moments living alone, and then you go, oh, if there were this other creature here. So it's not a hike, it's not a dog, but I did something consistently for 2 weeks, and it's really helped. And I'm just going to plug them. I'm probably, Procter & Gamble is not a great corporation, but this Crest clinical mouth rinse or mouthwash thing has worked so well. I just want to say, like, I did it, like it says do it for 2 weeks, and it helps prevent plaque regrowth and even helps reverse gingivitis. And I feel like that was what was happening, is I was having a flare-up of gingivitis. And this thing, that's why I got it, because it says clinical. I did it 2 weeks. I actually did something consistently. I mean, I know it sounds ridiculous, but I'm just saying, as far as an accomplishment, this was starting to freak me out.
It doesn't hurt as bad?
No, it's gone. It's practically gone. So I feel like
So you don't want to plug the tea bag that helped in the first place. You just
I should say the tea bags and the olive oil from my fellow podcaster Amber Kenny. But I would say this thing worked. If you're having the same pain and you want to use something, Crest Pro Health Clinical mouthwash worked after 2 weeks.
So big thank you and a shout out to Procter and Gamble for
thanks
your
for
service
exploiting
to the
whoever
country.
You're exploiting out there. Procter and Gamble.
That just made me think, because I was listening when you were talking about that, and I had a similar tooth thing, and I hope this is not to be a downer, but my dentist told me that the pain going away could also be a sign of like that nerve ending dying.
Right.
So.
Well, I've had nerve endings die before, Andrew.
Or this is different. Okay.
No. It's it might be the same thing happening, but I've been able to get through that. So,
and that's not necessarily a negative thing too. Like if they do fillings, oftentimes they'll.
And look, we're all the nerve endings are going to die at some point. I mean, that's just a fact of life.
Right.
Wow.
Right.
We're all headed towards the death of all nerve endings.
I still feel like
inevitable.
I have a million nerve endings going.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Doesn't Maya Angelou say to be an exposed nerve?
There you go. There you go. Feel it, baby.
All right. Parting shots. Let's go now to Andrew.
Check out Trailweight wherever you listen to podcasts. Trailweight on Instagram, Trailweight on Twitter.
And it's one episode so far, right?
One episode the first episode came out on April 15th, and the second one is on the 22nd. So depending on when this airs, and it'll be...
Oh, right. So 2 will be out by the time this comes out.
Yeah. So on trailweight.co, there's transcripts of everything. If you prefer to read it, there's photos. There's a photo of Dynasty Typewriter on the website. So
wow.
It all ties in. You just have to listen and find out. And thank you all so much for letting me share on this.
Of course.
On
it
your
was
show.
Great to see you. Andrew, you produced how long of the show? How many years? 2 maybe?
2, 3, 1.
What
all
is
seem
time?
plausible.
an incredibly dependable, reliable.
Jamie, when did you leave the Improv?
Honestly, that's crazy. It's like 2017, maybe, or even 2016 somehow.
So 2 or 3 years, yeah.
I don't know.
All right.
I don't know.
That street sound was
Parting shots. Let's go next to Jamie.
For my parting shot, just to take from earlier, one of the many concepts, letting go of shit. One of the epiphanic moments of last week, which
folks, you heard it here first. Epiphanic.
That's how it's pronounced.
Check for it in the dictionary next
regular
year.
Shakespeare.
Yeah.
I took on an editing project, a video editing project, and I started taking an Adobe Premiere class, like through LinkedIn Learning, and it was like a 20-hour class, trying to learn this thing that I've been playing in for years. And as I'm taking the class, like, it would have been great for me to have taken this before I spent hundreds of hours of my life, and not knowing the basic tools that are like in the tool thing. Anyway, as I was spending like this afternoon trying to finish this project that I promised my team that I would get done, and it was like 8 hours in, just like pulling my hair out, I was like, my legacy, or like whatever I want to put into the world and be remembered by, it has nothing to do with being a great editor. And I don't even know if I'll ever be a great editor. And it just struck me in a new way of like, I'm going to let go of, it's been like up here, like on an even playing ground with so many other things I want to be doing. And like, no, I can let that go. It doesn't mean I have to never edit anything again, but
there's other people
trying to
who that
be the
is their
best
skill
is like,
set. Yeah.
I need to hire these, that is it. And starting to look at so many areas where it's like, I don't have to be, I only need to focus on bringing people together for experiences. That's the main thing. And like, that's a new thing to look through for anything. Like, this is not helping me do what I do best. So to look in your life and try to find the places.
Is that going to apply to your decision to go on a month-long hike? Will you hire someone else to do that?
Hire Andrew.
I'm going to outsource that for sure.
I'm
Andrew,
down.
literally go take a hike.
If the price is right.
Oh, and I don't know if I mean, it couldn't hurt, but Andrew, do you have a quick boba of wisdom?
Yeah. A golden nugget of boba.
Plug the show again.
Check out. No, I think it ties into everything we're saying, but the biggest thing that I learned on the hike, and it sounds like echoed in everyone today, is like, just like the only thing you can focus on is the next step, like literally like one step in front of the other. And if that's where you're like, yes, have dreams and goals and visions, but like everyone can take one more step, and just focusing on that, you'll be amazed at what you can accomplish.
I think that's great. I would say it slightly differently, which is put one foot in front of the other, and soon you'll be walking across the floor. Put one foot in front of the other, and soon you'll be walking out the door. Shout out to our sponsor, Year Without a Santa Claus. And that's it. That's the long shot. That's our show. Thank you so much to Andrew for being here. Check out his podcast.
Did Amber do a parting shot?
But we could just do another puppy check-in.
Oh my goodness. It's got to be so soft, right? You must just be petting her all the time. Oh my
soft.
God.
I promise I'll have things to talk about that aren't just dog related, but this was my dog episode.
It's a little overwhelming right now, I bet.
Yeah. It's like having a baby.
Like it's the thing you focus on.
Jeff and I keep having that conversation of like, we still have a relationship outside of the dog. Like we have to keep that in mind.
You don't make sure the spice isn't lost.
Folks, this has been The Long Shot. It is a podcast. It is available in all your podcast places, which is where you got it in the first place and why you're able to listen to it right now. We'll see you next time.
Bye, everybody.
Bye.